Yo, what is up guys, it's your boy RapTRz here. Hope everybody's been doing well, enjoying the game to its full potential. I'm excited for the HUD rework that's going to be coming up. It's going to be dropping Tuesday. By the next video, you'll probably see gameplay of the HUD rework. But anyways, today we're going to be delving into one of the most feared heroes to lane against in Paragon, and that is Iggy and SCORCH. This guy is a monster. He is a lane dominating, zoning monster. A lot of people do not like playing against Iggy. He's annoying. He has lane pressure. He can harass. He can do a lot of things that can win you games a lot of the time. Iggy has the power to zone out people and deny area to your enemies, whether that's the Orb Prime, RapTRz, your tower, your inhibitor. Iggy has a lot of in his kit that denies area. Now, with Iggy and SCORCH, the biggest thing when it comes to playing Iggy is knowing how to play him. You can say this for any hero, but with Iggy, you do have to have a different play style, and you have to have a balance between that play style. A lot of the things people struggle with Iggy is knowing how to handle his turret system. People die with Iggy because they start to go in on a fight and they don't have turrets down. That's usually when people die. When you have most success with Iggy is because you have turrets down. Iggy is one of those heroes that you have to have a setup process. A lot of heroes, if any, don't have this kind of process. You have to set up when it comes to Iggy. So you need to have turrets down before you can do anything really, which is the thing people struggle with. A lot of good Iggy players know how to set up at the right time, at the right spots when they think something's gonna happen. This is very crucial in the early game. Iggy can dominate his lane. He can win his lane. Any good Iggy player will win his lane, whether that's the mid lane, the safe lane, or even a 2v1 scenario in the off lane. Iggy will win his lane. By winning his lane, you will have people rotate, you have pressure, you're harassing, you're not letting people take your tier 1, giving your allies an edge when it comes to having map control. Now, Iggy has this weird playstyle that you can switch between. You can play very passively as Iggy and still have a lot of success, but you can also play pretty aggressive as Iggy as well. In this gameplay, you're probably going to see me harassing the crap out of this Montages, I believe it was, where I'm just completely dominating my lane. I'm completely negating her from rotating. I'm making the jungler rotate. I'm giving the lane a hard time. That is something you really want to execute when it comes to playing Iggy. But anyways, in this gameplay, I want you guys take notes that I'm playing overly aggressively, and that's something I want to warn you guys about. And the thing I'm trying to talk about is balancing yourself between an aggressive and assertive gameplay style. In this gameplay, I die a lot of the times because I'm overstaying my welcome. I don't have vision. I'm overextending and playing stupidly aggressive, and a lot of these deaths could be simply avoided if I said, hey, I need to back up, let me go back, give me some mana, because I know somebody's gonna rotate. But I was having fun, you know, and that's something that I want to showcase as well, and showing how an aggressive playstyle can shut down and cripple a lane completely. But also, you can play assertively and passively and still have a lot of success by negating people from pushing onto your lane. But anyways, constant lane pressure, constant harassment. You want to deny the duo or the mid laner from rotating because you're constantly having turrets. You're constantly giving them this dot damage. You're giving them a hard time. You're making them work for that money. You're making them work for that lane. That's something Iggy does very well at. You have to make people work to win that lane because Iggy is very hard to take down, especially if he has a lot of turrets. Junglers are going to be hesitant to go in on you if you have a lot of turrets. The mid laner is going to be hesitant to go in on you, obviously, if you have turrets. Iggy can out-damage any hero when he has his turrets set down. That's just facts. He also has his Molotov, adds extra damage, also negates area, does a big AoE damage as well. His ultimate is completely catastrophic if you have a full setup. If you have a full setup of 4 turrets and a team fight breaks out and you ult, it's gonna do a lot of damage, especially if you stay alive during that whole time. The only way to counter an Iggy is if somebody builds a lot of ability armor, which is usually not the case for most of the times in situations. But anyways, moving on, that's probably the biggest tip I can give any new player when it comes to playing Iggy and Scorch is you need to master the setup process, because no other hero has this mechanic when it comes to setting up. You need to know how to set up, when to set up, and how to do it efficiently. You know, by using your ultimate at right time so you can slow people down, you know, and using that Molotov, using that dot damage to harass your enemy mid laner as well. But anyways, we're going to be moving on to the top tier build. This top tier build is where we go from early game, mid game to late game. I break it down. I show you the cards I pick and why I pick these certain cards and why I have found the most success with these cards as well. This build definitely focuses on sustain, being in the fight, having that constant pressure, having that constant damage as well. This provides a lot of damage output, also provides a lot of crowd control as far as slowing people down with your ultimate and your other abilities. But anyways, let's go right into the early game. So for this deck, we're going to be using the Order and the Growth Affinity. A lot of people also like using the Death Affinity. You have probably seen the Death and Order build for Iggy, but today I'm bringing you something different that works just as well with Iggy and Scorch as far as providing damage and providing sustain against very prominent team comps in the meta right now, which is why I like using the green, the Growth. But anyways, let's move right into the early game cards. The first card, obviously, if you're picking Order, you got to get a Lamplighter. You already know what this card does. 300 gold, 2 Shadow Wards. That is so valuable at any point of the game. I usually pick this up during the early and mid game phases so I can prevent people from ganking me. Again, Iggy doesn't have an escape, so having a Lamplighter for 300 gold is worth an investment in my opinion. First card we pick up, we put 1,000 gold into the Vitality tree and we pick up Exoskeleton. Makes us a little bit more tanking, surviving the poke damage in the early game. Second card we move on to is Vanguard Captain. I like using Vanguard Captain because it allows me to harass my enemy mid laner without taking damage from the minions, but I like picking it up because of the 7.4 health regen. It is so good to sustain in the early game, and we're going to pair it up with the Radiant Healer combo. Again, you're going to invest 3 points into intellect. By this time you have 4 points into intellect, and this is good because you're going to be curbing into your big card in the mid game, which is intellect points. We're going to mention it here later. So we're going to have 4 points into intellect. We have Radiant Healer, we have Vanguard Captain. This little duo combo, I like using it in a lot of builds when I run the Order Affinity because of the health regen scaling you get. You get around, I believe, 17 or 20 health regen when you pick these two cards up, and is very, very nice. Our other early game card is Protective Sentry. This is optional. If you want Protective Sentry, you can pick it up as well. Eventually you will start building into Vitality, so Protective Sentry is going to pop up for you, and you can pick it up during the mid game or in the early game if you want to start doing that as well. But again, the early game we focus on sustain, and the damage, the natural scaling from his turrets is enough damage for me if you know how to utilize it the right way, and having that sustain is very nice. A lot of people, when they run the Death Affinity, they liked using Possessed Spriken, which is nice and it works very well. It's a very good deck. I've used it before, but I feel like some of the late game cards, I want to utilize some late game cards that will give this build the full circle without having to curse myself, because in the early game we still have that regen with Vanguard Captain and Radiant Healer. So we're going to be moving on to the mid game. Mid game with the Growth Affinity, you already know what it is. We got to get that Growth Totem. Growth Totem is a very good card. Gain 0.75 power and 20 max health every minute. This effect has no limit. It's a free card. In the mid game, this is our first power card. Eventually, once you start building into the intellect to build up to your second card in the mid game, you're going to get Growth Totem completely free. So pick it up, and you're going to use this for the most part in your deck. And then once you put 7 points into the intellect tree, get rid of your Vanguard Captain, your Radiant Healer. Usually the early game phase is done. You don't need so much sustain. You're going to move on to Stagnant, the minion. This is Such a key card on Iggy. It is a bread and butter card that everybody uses on Iggy, and we have to have it in here. Stagnant Dominion, 16 power, 40% mana regen. Ability damage slows enemies movement speed by 150 for 1 second. If you're not familiar with this card, this combos extremely well with his turrets and his ultimate. His turrets alone will slow people down. When you ult, the slow from your ultimate will stack with Stagnant of Dominion, giving you this crazy amount of crowd control without rooting somebody, so it doesn't proc an Unbroken Spirit or it doesn't proc anything else. It is completely worth on Iggy. Our other card that's going to give us a lot of damage, Apex Predator. Very good card. 10 power, 14 attack speed, but this is what we want. Empowering Strikes. Grant a stack of 0.75 power when damaging an enemy hero. Stacking up to 40 times. At max stacks, you will gain 24 ability armor. Iggy's turrets proc dot damage, and they also shoot very quickly, especially when you're ulting. When you ult, the dot damage and the bullets hitting an enemy is going to stack this Apex Predator extremely quickly, and if they're in it long enough and if it hits enough people, what it's usually meant to do, it's designed to hit a lot of people, it's going to give you 24 ability armor, and it's going to be doing a crap ton of damage. This is the combo of why I like picking growth over the death build. Because of this, you get your damage card a lot faster with Apex Predator. You get your damage card a lot faster with Growth Totem. And you get Stagnant of Dominion fairly quickly. This build, you can get this build at full build extremely fast. This is why I like this build. With the death build, it takes a lot longer to get a full build, and you don't get the full, I guess, potential out of that build. Growth, I love it on Iggy just because of that. Our other card we have in the mid game is Vital Waters. Once you're building up your other late game card that we're going to mention, it's 9 points of vitality, but while you're building that up, you might get up to 7 vitality points, and you can put this in your deck too if you want to pick it up. It's kind of like a situational card, I guess. You get 265 health. You know, if you have a Narbash on your team or a Phase, or if somebody's doing healing, it will combo well with that, but also that's why I like using it. Anyways, we're going to be moving on to the late game build. One of the first late game cards we have, it's a situational card, is Yomi Guardian. 12 power, 240 health, 24 basic armor. Nearby allied units get a 100% chance to block 70 damage. This is obviously good for good for yourself. It's obviously good for your allies if you want to provide a little bit of utility against a heavy basic damage team comp. This is very good for Yomi Guardian. A lot of basic attack team comps, if they're rocking that double carry team comp, a lot of those team comps don't have a lot of crowd control for the most part. So Yomi Guardian is a very good pickup, but a lot of team comps now in this meta, they rock with that crowd control, and that is why we have Unbroken Spirit. 10 power, 360 health, 30 ability armor. Very crucial, that ability armor. I'm gonna tell you why. And you heal for 2.5 max health per second for 4 seconds after being hit by a crowd control ability. This effect can stack. If you get hit by a Sevarog Root, a Grux Pull, Richter, Aurora, big heavy crowd control from her. Anybody who has crowd control, roots, knockups, stuns, it's gonna proc this Unbroken Spirit. Give you health regen. Very crucial. But again, the ability armor. A lot of people, when they're dealing with Iggy and SCORCH, a lot of the things people resort to is burst damage. They go in, okay, there's an Iggy and SCORCH. We need to kill him very quickly. Let's stun lock him, and then let's dump a bunch of abilities on him. That's usually how most people in the game deal with Iggy. However, Unbroken Spirit is gonna make it 10 times harder for them. Okay, they go in on you, they stun lock you, Sevarog roots you, Aurora ults you, Countess goes up to ult you. she's going to stun you too, and then you're going to eat some ability damage. You're going to eat a lot of ability damage, and you're going to get regen, and the 30 ability armor is going to mitigate a lot of that damage as well. Unbroken Spirit. Absolutely devastating on Iggy. It's so hard to kill an Iggy with a freaking Unbroken Spirit, and it works so damn well. I pick this card up 90% of the time. 90% of the time, I pick up Unbroken Spirit just because of that. Our last card in the build, MALLENK GNASHER. This is a very late game card. Most of the time, you're going to be rocking Unbroken Spirit, you're going to be rocking Stagnant Dominion, and you're going to be rocking Apex Predator. Once you get to the late game, you can drop off your Growth Totem, or you can keep it. It's up to you, but I like having Stagnant. I like having that power from Apex Predator, and I like having the sustain from Unbroken Spirit. If it gets to a point in the late game where you get so much gold, you can replace your Apex Predator for MALLENK's GNASHER. MALLENK's GNASHER is basically Apex Predator on crack. It's super crazy on Iggy. 19 power, 140 mana, 80% mana regen. Ability hits on enemy heroes increase your damage against that hero by 4% for 10 seconds. This effect can stack up to 8 times. You can get up to around 30 plus extra damage on somebody with MALLENK's GNASHER. That is triple of the amount of an atomic soldier when you're rocking a knowledge ability. The knowledge affinity. 30% plus ability damage on a hero is absolutely insane damage output with your turrets. You could proc this full stack of plus 30% ability damage with your ultimate and your turrets alone, with your Molotov and your dot damage. It's absolutely crazy. I've gone to this card one time, and it is nasty. It is so nasty. It can melt somebody so quickly. MALLENK GNASHER with Unbroken Spirit and Stagnant of Dominion is nasty. That's all I'm going to say. That's the full build right there. Again, you rock the early game sustain, Radiant Healer, Vanguard. You go into an Apex Predator, into a Stagnant Dominion. Then you can go into an Unbroken Spirit or a Yomi Guardian. And if you get late into the game, late enough, you can pick up MALLENK's GNASHER, which is basically a super buffed version of Apex Predator. And that's the build right there. We're going to be moving on to the gems. And these gems also complement our cards that we're rocking right here. So now we're going to be moving into the gems. A lot of the gems we use are located within the intellect tree, again, because a lot of gems within the intellect tree benefit us as a caster. Our first gem is going to be Onslaught. Reduce a cooldown by 0.2 seconds when you land a basic attack. This is very good because, again, we're a caster, rely on our abilities to do most of our damage, and reducing that as much as possible with Onslaught is going to help us in the long run. Our second gem is going to be Deadly Mana. Killing an enemy minion increases max mana by 2. Again, more mana the better, the more abilities we can use, and helps us sustain a lot longer by killing minions to get that extra mana. Third gem is probably the most pivotal, crucial gem that we have in this build. 2.2 health regen, heal for 5% of ability damage dealt, and that is from healing spells. Healing spells with your turrets, your Molotov, your dot damage, and your ultimate is going to allow you to sustain a lot longer when you're taking damage in a team fight and people are trying to chase you down and kill you because of your turrets. This is very good. It combos very nicely with your Unbroken Spirit. You're going to be getting health regen from that. If you get stun locked, again, a lot of people, how they deal with Iggy, they try to stun lock him and they try to dump a bunch of abilities. You're going to get health regen from your Unbroken Spirit, and you're also going to be getting health back from your healing spells. So it's going to make you so hard to kill with this gem. I take this gem over any other gem located within the third tier of the intellect tree. It's crazy amount of sustain. It allows you to live so long in a team fight because of your turrets constantly proccing that damage and constantly giving you that health back when you're taking damage. Fourth slot is Spell Shield. This is pretty basic right here. 2.45 power, but you'll block the next enemy ability. Again, it will block that extra stun, that extra big heavy damage ability that people are trying to deal towards you. Spell Shield makes you a lot harder to kill again. Overpowered Spells is our last gem. Abilities deal 20% bonus damage and cost an additional 30% mana. You get, again, more health regen, 2.2 health regen, and you get 2.45 power. This complements with your healing spells. Overpowered spells does more damage. With more damage, you're going to get more health from your healing spells. Plus, you get 2.2 health regen from healing spells. You get 2.2 health regen from overpowered spells. You get more health regen from Unbroken Spirit too when that procs as well. So it's going to give you get a lot more health regen, a lot more sustain, and you're getting damage as well. And overpowered spells is very good with Mallenk's Gnasher. You're going to be doing a lot of damage. So that's basically the intellect tree and how they combo into each other and into the cards as well. All these things combo each other, and it's so powerful. Our last gem is in the Vitality tree. It's a second tier gem. It's damage reduction. Again, we build into Yomi Guardian and Unbroken Spirit, so having that extra gem in Vitality is going to complement that as well, because we can get the damage reduction. It only costs 7 Vitality, and it reduces basic attack damage taken by 10%. So that's basically the build right there. You can see how much sustain we have with the damage reduction, with healing spells, complementing with overpowered spells, with the spell shield, with Unbroken Spirit, with Apex Predator, and with a Mallenk's Gnasher. Completely devastating damage and completely awesome sustain. I hope you guys enjoy the build, the guide. If you did, please leave a like. It helps me out so much. Leave down in the comments below if you use a similar build like this, or if you use the death build as well, and why you like using Plague Lord's Mallenk. I know a lot of people are going to be commenting, oh, death is a lot better. I personally think growth in order is the way to go for Iggy. But anyways, it's your boy RapTRz. Go out in that lane, go play some Iggy and SCORCH, rock this build, and trust me, you're going to give people a hard time and they're going to hate you. It's your boy RapTRz, and I'll see you guys on Paragon.